All right, so a little bit of background information about acid rain before we start our lab here. These concepts are going to help you with some of the first couple questions on our lab sheet. So things like industrialization, deforestation, both contribute to increasing our atmospheric CO2. CO2 in the atmosphere combines with water to form carbonic acid. So the formula for carbonic acid is H2CO3. What this is going to do is make the rainwater slightly acidic. And now this concept is important. This is the pH scale. We're talking about pH of like 5.6, so clean rain. So this is what we're looking at here. This carbonic acid formation is not acid rain. We'll get to that in just a second. This is just what's happening due to the increase in atmospheric CO2. The burning of fossil fuels produces SO2. SO2 is sulfur dioxide. When that combines with rainwater, so water in the atmosphere, it forms sulfuric acid. So this is a very strong acid, and this is when we talk about acid rain, this sulfuric acid is what we're really concerned about. So if we were looking back at our pH chart here, if neutral water is a pH of 7, or what we talked about with carbonic acid, if that was a pH of around 5.6, our acid rain produced by the production of this sulfuric acid is about a pH of 4.3. This is going to become dangerous, right? So this can erode structures, can cause severe health problems. When we talk about acid rain, this is what we're concerned about here. And when you think about pH, we're also talking about a logarithmic scale. So if a pH of 5.6 or about 6, that would be about 10 times more potent. pH of 5 would be about 100 times more potent. What we're talking about here with a pH of 4, this is almost 1,000 times more acidic than neutral water. So in this lab, we're actually going to be taking a sample of diluted sulfuric acid here, and we're going to run it through a couple different soil types. So we're going to actually experiment with something that farmers in this area do to neutralize the pH of the incoming rainwater as it hits their crops. All right, so this lab has quite a few materials. For initial materials, what you're going to want to grab is a LabQuest. Attached to your LabQuest is going to be this pH storage solution, pH sensor device that we're going to hook up eventually to our LabQuest. You're going to need two 250 milliliter or 400 milliliter beakers, a funnel, and then attached to that you're going to need a ring stand attached to a pole setup. So ring stand pole, I'll just put the funnel in right now. 2 coffee filters. You're gonna need probably some paper towels. Lab gets a little messy. Or if we have towels in the room, grab a towel. And goggles. So everyone's gonna need to wear goggles for this lab. So for this lab, we're gonna use 2 different types of soils. We're gonna run our sulfuric acid solution through both of these soils. So part 1 for this lab, we're gonna be using soil A, which is just basically normal soil, the normal soil that you would find pretty much anywhere, just organic material. The second soil is actually the same soil, but mixed in. We have calcium carbonate. So we have some lime solution, calcium carbonate. So this is going to act as our buffer. And so this will be for part 2. You're going to use soil B for part 2. For part 1 right now, we're going to use soil A. All right, so to set up part 1, I have my funnel. I'm going to place a coffee filter in the funnel. Make sure that one of my beakers is right below the funnel. And then I'm going to come over and grab my soil. So you want to grab 2 scoops of soil A, 2 scoops of soil A. And we're going to pour this right into our coffee filter here. All right, so once I've got my coffee filter set up, we can grab our sulfuric acid solution, which should be in the back by the fume hood over here. So we're going to want to grab 100 milliliters of sulfuric acid solution in our other beaker, our other 250 milliliter beaker. Before we grab our acid over here in the fume hood, we need to make sure that we're all wearing goggles. So everyone in your group needs to wear goggles. Even if you're not the one handling the acid, I want every single person to be wearing goggles. So you can find these in the back storage case over here. Everyone needs to wear goggles. Mr. Wells is already wearing his goggles. Now that I've got my 100 milliliters of sulfuric acid solution, I can start running procedure 1. So again, make sure you have your soil type A in your funnel set up, that there's an empty beaker under here that's going to catch all the water discharge. What we need to do first is take an initial pH reading of the initial sulfuric acid solution. So I already hooked up my pH probe to my LabQuest device. The best way to take off the buffer solution here, and it's really important that you don't spill or mess around with this buffer solution. This is what's going to keep the pH meter calibrated and also safe from potentially breaking if this solution is spilled or if the pH sensor is left out too long. So what we can do here is, if you want to remove it the most safe way possible, screw off the cap so that it looks like this, set the cap down, and then slowly pull this off. So you don't want to just tug at that, you want to take it off just how I did it. These can be very sensitive. So set that sample solution aside for now. Make sure that it doesn't get knocked over, set it somewhere nice and safe. The last thing that we have to do before we take our initial measurement is spray off. So I grabbed some deionized water. You can find deionized water up in the front in these bottles. If these bottles are empty, you can find it in our deionized water station in the back by the fume hood. And I'm going to spray this off. You want to make sure you do this at every step. Every time you take a measurement and every time you're done taking a measurement, you're going to spray off your sensor with deionized water. And then I'm going to take an initial reading. So this is the initial pH of my sulfuric acid solution. It's going to give you a live reading. Just record when it starts to stabilize. Again, I'm going to spray this off when I'm done using it. All right, so once I've got my initial pH reading, I'm going to take my sulfuric acid solution And I'm going to slowly pour it down through my soil. So you're going to let it filter out for just a little bit, let this filter through the soil. You're going to run this 3 separate times for each procedure. So you're going to run it through, and in just a second, when most of the water here is filtered out, most of the solution is filtered out, we're going to run another trial really quick here. So all I'm going to do, once it's ran through a decent amount, I'm just going to replace my beakers, and I'm going to pour it through again. So you're going to want to do this 3 times for soil A, 3 times for soil B here. Okay, so I'm going to filter this out a third and final time here. Switch your beakers out. So it looks like my third run is finishing up here. You're not obviously going to wait till every little droplet is out, so I'm just going to make sure I have something under here. This is what our solution should look like after a third run through. Nice, beautiful color right here. So this is our sulfuric acid, ran through soil A 3 times. Set that down here, and we're going to take a final measurement. So same process. I'm going to spray off my probe. Make sure to spray off your probe. Do that right now. And when you're ready, I'll let it sit in there. And it looks like my pH went up to 3.43. So this was soil type A. Before we start the next part, you should fully dispose of everything that you'd use for part 1. So what I'm going to do here is throw away my solution. I'm actually going to bring over the garbage, and I recommend that you do this as well. I'm going to bring over the garbage. To throw away my coffee filter, your funnel. We're going to rinse this out with deionized water here. So make sure you fully rinse out your funnel before you start the next procedure. I'm going to dump my acid. Once you've dumped both of your acids down the drain here, you're going to want to make sure that you rinse out the inside of each of your beakers here. And I'm going to just make sure right away that I have my pH probe sprayed off for the next trial. Okay, so this is going to be our setup for part 2. It's going to be very similar to the same setup that we just did, but now we're going to be using soil B. So once I've cleaned out everything, I'm going to replace a beaker under the funnel. I'll put on a new coffee filter. And we're going to grab 2 scoops of soil B. I'll put those in right away. So we got soil B. All right, I'm going to grab another 100 milliliters of our sulfuric acid solution. All right, everything seems to be in order here. I've got my soil B in my coffee filter. I've got a beaker under the funnel here to catch all of that excess sulfuric acid solution. I've got my sulfuric acid, 100 milliliters. And so I'm going to pour through, just like part one, I'm going to pour through 3 times. Make sure not to dump it all out at once. Just pour it through nice and slow. Actually, the slower that you pour it, the faster this is going to go. So if you dump it all out at once, you're going to be waiting quite a long time here for it to come out. Looks like mine's coming out just a little slow. So again, you can take stir rod, as long as you don't break anything in the coffee filter, should be totally fine. Mix around my solution a little bit. Looks good for the first filter. Again, we're going to do this 3 times. So I'll run it through 3 times. All right, I'll run it through one more time here. And it's very possible that this last one will take quite a while. So just be patient as it filters through the very end here. Well, all right, looks like it's finishing up here. I'm just gonna take my soil B sample here, place something under it so that nothing spills out onto the table. Nice, nice soil B sample here. So what I'm gonna do, after I've rinsed off my pH probe, which I've already done here, rinse off your pH probe before you stick it into your acid solution. I'm going to place it in and check my live reading here. Wow, all right, looks like it did kind of what we thought it would do and buffered for a lot of that acidity. So we ran acid through soil A and soil B, and our value for pH was a lot higher in soil B. So I'm just going to take that out. Again, this is really, really important, especially for this last step here. I'm going to spray off my pH probe. Make sure to get the tip of the probe all cleaned off. And then I'm going to stick it back into the buffer solution here. Once we have our pH probe cleaned off here, and it's really important, make sure to spray this off with deionized water. I'll place the cap back on. And then I'm going to screw it back onto the storage solution here. So, cap should be on nice and tight. You don't want that to come out. And then we can put away our pH sensor and our LabQuest device. You're going to want to rinse off your glassware at least 5 times. And again, this is a very messy lab. It's probably one of the messier labs that we're going to run in this class. So make sure that you take some time at the end of lab here to clean off everything. If you spilled a little bit of acid or if anything else got spilled, make sure to wipe down your messes. We've got towels up in the front. Oh wow, thanks to the valiant efforts of Professor Rex and Baby Groot, I was able to clean that up in no time. I even had time to clean off my lab table. How about that? So as always, let me know if you have any questions when it comes to the lab procedure or filling out any of the prompts for the worksheet for this lab. This was our soil and acid rain lab. Thanks for watching.